Welcome back to the Brave Central podcast. Bear Salee and Chris Domino with you. And we're going to talk all things Brave. So share, like, write a review, all of those things you do in the podcast world. We really do appreciate it. And we also would appreciate a team that would get going in the right direction, Chris. This Brave season, look, we're at June 2nd. And we're one of the worst teams in the National League. I'm not going to lie. I did not have this on my bingo card.
Yeah, look, and it's at a certain point, it's going to be a certain amount of games, and there'll be this, there aren't enough games left to make up for what it is you haven't done over a period of time. It's not June 1st, it's not June 2nd, it's not June 3rd, because there are still plenty of games to make it up. Now, the real question is, there's two ways to go about it. Let me start with the math that I always talk about. If there were going to be teams over 500, there are going to be teams under 500. There's one in Arizona that is basically the same as the Atlanta Braves in the sense that people would say they're an underachiever. Baltimore's an underachiever. Detroit might be an overachiever. So you're going to have both of those things. You're going to have teams above 500 who are playing a little bit better than people thought, sometimes a lot better, and you're going to have people who are below 500. That's what happens. Not everybody's going to be above 500. Can't happen. There's no such math as that of a 162 for 30 teams. But if you're underachieving because you have baseball players who aren't playing good baseball, it's different than if you're underachieving because you don't have good baseball players.
Yeah.
And which one is it? You know, everybody keeps going to the back of the card. Well, I can tell you, Paul Goldschmidt, the back of his card last year was awful. It's a lot better this year. And there are going to be guys who aren't as consistent as we sort of say. We flippantly, because Tony Gwynn, Chipper Jones, George Brett, even Chipper had an outlier year. We talk about it. I think he had 249 one year.
Yeah,
because that can happen in baseball. But if you have guys who are underachieving as a group, if you have guys who aren't playing good, fundamental, don't beat ourselves baseball, that's one thing. If you overestimated how good your players are, that's something completely different. So on June, whatever the hell today is, start figuring out which one it is. And in 2021, when you were, on June 1st, 4 games behind the Mets, you were 4 games behind one team in the division. You're a 4th place team in your own division now. With that wild card standing thing that I broke out 2 weeks ago, now we're down to 3 teams below you. So you're submerged, like you're below the water. There are only 3 teams below the water than you in the entirety of the National League, and that wasn't supposed to happen.
No, it wasn't. And one of those is the Rockies, which just for humor's sake, at least we're not the Rockies. It could get worse. But what really frustrates me, Chris, is the lack of just basic baseball IQ or fundamentals at the plate. I know everyone's saying, hey, let's fire everybody. Fire Snit, fire Tuiasosopo, fire Tim Hires. And I keep going back to the individual. These are player problems, right? Sean Murphy trying to hit the ball to 285 with runners on first and third and nobody out, down 3-1 against Boston in the 4th inning. He should know better. Michael Harris swinging at balls in the right-hand batter's box in critical situations. You can't do that. And it's kind of a theme for this entire team. Go back a couple of weeks to the Eli White base running situation. You need to know basic situational base running and not put yourself in that position. And I know stat nerds will sit here and say, well, yeah, you still do swing for the fences because according to the XYWR question mark equal sign stat, it makes more sense that way. And with a team like this, no, it doesn't, because I know they don't hit with runners in scoring position, but if there's a runner on second and nobody out, put one to the right side, get that guy on third, and maybe they do get somebody home with runners in scoring position because they're not doing it all that well anyway. At least give themselves a better chance to.
There are certain teams that just need Band-Aids to cover up their problems. There are other teams that say, man, you're bleeding. You're bleeding out. And Band-Aids don't cure that. So which one are you? I'll go back to it. Are you a team of good baseball players who aren't playing good baseball? Or are you a team of we're not very good, like just playing? It's just these guys aren't very good baseball players. And maybe that's the year, maybe that's the month, maybe that's a 2-week stretch, maybe it's a 10-game stretch. I know how you accumulate the record the Braves have. I know how you find yourself in the position you're in. But Saturday afternoon, I do the show called Hardball here at 680 The Fan in Atlanta. And what I thought was going to take about 2 or 3 minutes took a little bit longer because I know how you win more baseball games. I do. Uh, Strike out less, walk more, hit more home runs. When you have a 2-run lead, make it a 4-run lead. We don't demoralize anybody. There are certain teams, the Cubs can demoralize you. The Dodgers can demoralize you. The Yankees at times can demoralize you. That's not us. So once you realize that's not you, and this is 50-plus games of that not being you, your margins and everything else we talk about are slimmer than we thought they were going to be. Now, is Sean Murphy supposed to be thinking, let me slap it the other way? I don't know. What's the guy's lifetime average? Is he a 255 hitter? I mean, what does he know about slapping it the other way? Like, no, I'm just saying we
no, and that's the problem.
But do we ask guys to do stuff they can't do? Are they in a position where they go, well, I know I can't do that, so I better do the thing that I think I can do, run into one? I know how you win more games. I can give you, but as I said the other day, and this was the whole idea, I don't even want to call it a rant. I was really calm about it, but I don't have a solution. You don't have a solution. Here's the thing that's bothersome to some people: the people in the building across the street, everybody, from the golf shirt guys to the guy or two above them, down to the players. They don't have a solution. These are just asks. I call them asks and wants. Oh, let's strike out less. Let's hit more home runs. Let's figure out a way to get into that category of runs created and be better at it than other teams in baseball. You're not that. And there's no solution for that. I got to be honest. Like, people will tell me, oh, take more pitches. If you take more pitches, am I actually passing up the one for every AB that I might get? Look, I'll give you something from me. I've said this about 3 or 4 times this year. I watched a manager get run. I saw 2 of them get run this weekend. Marcell Ozuna, there's nobody who's a good baseball player that gets more screwed than Marcell Ozuna when it comes to balls and strikes. I would have been out of the dugout, and I just would have said, for my own health, if I'm the manager, I don't care if I'm 40, I don't care if I'm 70, I don't care if I'm any number in between. For my own health, I would have just absolutely chewed out an umpire. I would have chewed him out. I said, do you understand what that guy has been for the last 2+ years, and you're not giving him the call he's supposed to get? I probably, as an Italian, would have gone after an Italian umpire and the Italian crew, 3 out of 4, and said, I know what you are. You're dirty. You're filthy. You probably bet this game. Now, that's going to cost you a lot of money. I'm not telling you that one's going to be cheap, but I at some point have got
It'd be funny as hell.
I joke about the angst, the ball of angst that sits below my heart, and it is eventually going to get shoved in there, and I'll be dead before I hit the floor. Like, if there's a machine that could measure the ball of angst, I'm an all-timer. And when it goes up there, here's how I want to avoid it going up there. Once in a while, you just gotta pop off.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it a lot. I don't do it a lot in my life. As the man said, it's like pizzas. I eat aggression. But that would have been the moment that I think, and I've had about 3 of them this year. I'll be honest, if I was Walt Weiss, if I was Rick Kranitz, I know it's the manager's job to get thrown out, and he's the voice of the thing. I would have said, you know what, I'm going to go out and do it this time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how you just screwed me. And it's not because nobody's screwing you to this record. They're not. But at least moments when I go, I got problems, and you're not helping, which means now you're one of the problems. Bad call at the plate, strike zone. There was a call that was overturned the other day. Was there enough evidence? I don't know. We sort of say if it's inconclusive, then you just keep the call. It didn't go that way. That would have been a moment I'd come out of the dugout. Now, again, I'm not saying I rip first base out and I chuck it into the outfield. I might, but I just think that there are times that it's just, it looks lethargic. It doesn't look overly intelligent. It's underachieving. And again, I joke about it. I got my 10 commandments of sports. Let me tell you how guys get fired. Like, it's really simple. People get fired. Let's just say managers, coaches, head coaches. People get fired, pitching coaches, hitting coaches, defensive coordinators. people get fired for one of two reasons, and it's only one of two reasons. There's only two of them. What you put out there as a product, the thing that you're in charge of, isn't good enough for somebody who controls who gets fired and who doesn't. So that's on you. That's the record. That's the numbers. That's everything else. But let me tell you the only other way that people get fired, and it does happen. You're underachieving, and teams that weren't supposed to be better than you are better than you. So you might have a resume that says you won a World Series, you won a Super Bowl, you were in a Super Bowl. I shouldn't fire that guy. But wait, there are more teams that are surprisingly good coupled up with you're now surprisingly bad, and you make a change. Like that, those are the two reasons that people get fired from positions of authority, coaching, managing, whatever it might be. So you've got to decide, does winning a World Series in 2021 buy you World Series grace, or are we past that now? And it doesn't mean guys get necessarily dumber, but situations change. I have different players. The injury thing changes. Oh, and then I look around and Detroit's better than they were supposed to be. Chicago's better than they were supposed to be. Am I supposed to then say, cut off the head of my snake because it's twofold? We're underachieving, but somebody else is overachieving. I don't know if anybody over there, I don't think Brian Snitker's getting fired this year. I'm not calling for his head. I think this is a player problem more than anybody else. But it is one of two ways that you eventually look at it when you have either exit interviews. Brandon Hyde of Baltimore, he got fired. That guy won 100 games 2 years ago. Listen to this. And I'm going to look this up because I think I'm right about it. They lose 100. 2 years later, they win 100. They're on pace to lose 100. Now, how's that happen in a 5-year window? Well, I can give you some of the reasons. You didn't sign Corbin Burns and everything else. But Baltimore just said, oh, fan base is getting restless. We're back to not showing up at Camden. Chicago's overachieving. Detroit's better. We got to fire our guy. But he didn't win a World Series. And that's the thing that gets a little bit tricky around here when you start, if you're calling for people's heads, how many heads do you want and why are you doing it?
Yeah. And when the thing about what you just said is absolutely right. And, you know, the snit hate is growing. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What you mentioned about Marcell Ozuna and the reaction, I think, is very, very important because for those who didn't see it, Marcell Ozuna was called out on strikes in the ninth inning on Sunday on a ball that was probably 4 or 5 inches off the plate. And that does happen to him seemingly every single game. He's looking around going, what the hell, man? And he voiced his displeasure, and it didn't really voice it. He just kind of looked at the guy and walked off. And you're right. That would have just Bobby Cox's head would have exploded in that situation.
Say, Marcell Ozuna has got to be like that wide receiver. Every once in a while, you got to get in a ref's face and say, do you know who I am?
Dude, right, exactly.
You didn't make that call. I think Marcell Ozuna should have blasted off.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. But there's no fire. There's no sense of urgency, at least visibly. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in the clubhouse. They understand. They know that they have to win games now just to make the playoffs. They understand that. But there doesn't seem to be anybody that's an ass kicker in there. And I think that's the biggest problem. That's what bothers me the most, is that there's not somebody to get everybody in line in the clubhouse as a player. Coaches, I don't really, I understand you're right. There has to be somebody to get everybody in line. And for Brandon Hyde, it didn't work out. For Snit, yes, he has the he's built up the equity of, having that World Series title, but there's not anybody in there with a personality to kick somebody in the butt and say, hey, let's get this done. And I think what was great about the Braves teams in the past is that you have a guy like Chipper, right? Chipper comes in, he's a leader. At first, he was more leader by example. Then he became a vocal leader. He found his voice. Freddie was more of a lead by example guy. He didn't really turn into a, get in your face kind of guy, but it worked for him. That's his voice. That's his personality. The problem now is I think it's gone on for so long in that clubhouse without a leader, without somebody that would get people in line, that if anyone tries to do it, it's disingenuous, and that's going to backfire. Someone's got to step up and be like, okay, I'm the guy. I can handle this. Here's how we fix it, and be genuine about it.
Yeah,
and do it their own way.
I'm not a big believer in you fix things. I mean, I've been hearing people and, oh, today's the day that it gets started. Today's the day that it gets started. Well,
We say that after every
I
win.
don't I don't say it. I've
And
never
then now
said
we
it.
say it jokingly.
I've never said it. Like I've never said it. You go on a roll when it's your time to go on a roll because you figure out a way again to either demoralize somebody to win the 1-run game, the 2-run game, to come up close and late, seventh, eighth, and ninth inning. I don't have an implosion in my bullpen. I know how you win 8 out of 10 again, but these are asks and wants. There's no solution. You either do it or you don't. And I don't believe that a guy throwing a nutty is the reason you'll go 8-10 in your next 10 games. But I do know that I think there's a time where that valve has to be opened. I do know that there's a time where, hey, man, instead of having a balloon blow up because it blows up, how about I pop it? How about I actually cause the explosion? Not
Yeah.
because it's going to guarantee anything. Look, I don't know if somebody probably has the statistic. Manager gets thrown out in the sixth inning. How many games in the next 3 does his team win? Player loses his crap on an umpire or a player, or there's a brawl or a fake brawl. Who goes on to win 8 of the next 10? My guess is it doesn't really work that way. It doesn't. But as a fan base, as a consumer, an emotional consumer, a financial consumer, I'd like to think that you're going to do something different and not Ozuna losing his crap, Snit losing his crap. I'd like to see it because I think, first of all, I'd be entertained by it. This is an entertainment business. It
Sure.
is show business. But I also think that it might be the thing that somebody said, all right, there's that. I've watched a couple of fights. I've seen fights in a bar that I had nothing to do with. Am I entertained? Yeah. Do I want people to get really hurt? No, I'm not a masochist. I'm not a jagoff. But I've walked away going, that was pretty cool.
That was awesome. Yeah.
That was pretty
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
I'd like
Yeah.
a pretty cool moment around here.
There have not been
I
many.
would like to see somebody point at a pitcher after they come in on him. I would like to see somebody flip a fucking bat to the moon and go, oh, did I just create an enemy? Good.
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 Yeah. Good.
Yeah, come after me tomorrow. I'll do it again to you. So I want to be entertained. This team is not very entertaining.
No.
It's Groundhog Day in a lot of ways. And I'm not telling you, look, I'm smart enough to know certain things. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know, but I am smart enough to know what I do know. The 1 and 2 run thing was a thing, and it is. Having 22 teams with more wins than you is a thing. That's not getting fixed tomorrow. Can you chop away at it? Of course you can. That's what competing is. But 63 and 41 the rest of the way out to get to 90 wins. That's 22 games over 500. There's nothing about this team. Nothing. Don't give me hope. Don't give me want. Don't give me the back of the baseball card. There's nothing about this team right now that says they can go 22 games over 500. Nothing.
Not a single thing. And what I was worried about, after the 0-7 and through the disappointments of April, and when May started to turn around, it started to change. I was always worried about apathy setting in and having that fan base just disconnect. I'll be honest, Chris, the fan base is disconnected. In April and May on the 680 wrap-up show, which comes after the Braves Radio Network coverage, we take callers. And man, from April through mid-May, there was anger, there was angst, there was frustration. Now it just is like people don't care.
Yeah. Well, you're not,
and I hate that.
You're not entitled to be a winner. It's not your birthright. It's not your city's birthright. You go up, you go down. You win, a World Series, you don't. You go to a World Series, then you don't. I mean, that's sort of what being a fan is. And I agree, apathetic is the worst emotion you can have around a team. But it's been pretty high cotton around here lately. And it's frustrating to think that, oh, wait, was it only going to be one World Series? Are we not going to be a good October team? Oh, wait. Are we not going to get to October? Is that who we are right now? You might be. Because, by the way, I say it all the time. You're either getting better or you're getting worse, but so is everybody else. You don't know who's catching up to you until they actually do it. You don't know who's falling behind you to create. I did the thing with the playoffs. Why not? June 1st, who's in, who's out? 4 teams that were in last year would be out this year. On average, in baseball, 5.5, now with the new format, It'll be 4.5 to 5.5. So those are the over under numbers that will be in and then not be in the next year. Well, you're in that category that I said it yesterday. Here's the bad one. We're in last year, not in right now. You're not alone. There's 3 other teams with you, and there were 4 teams that will gladly take your place. But with about 100 games left, you can still fix it. That's the June 1st list for a reason. I just don't know if you're going to play good enough where even if some of the teams that, let's just call them overachievers right now, if they settle out, if they regress back to their norm, is it still too many of them?
Yeah.
Like, why do the Cubs have to all of a sudden be one of the worst teams in baseball for a month to have you come close or even thinking about catching them? Well, because that's what I need. I need Washington to stop. I need Philadelphia to stop. I need Chicago and let's just say it's St. Louis who won 9 in a row at one point. Don't do that again or else we're in more trouble. Yeah.
Right.
Your best winning streak is 4. I can go around baseball and tell you the teams that have won at least that many games in a row, and you go, wow, we're just them? Yeah, go look at the record. You're just them. It ain't a crime. What? Nobody has to go to jail. It just stinks.
Yeah. What really scares me, too, is, we've looked at this from one perspective all year. The bats aren't going. They can't hit with runners in scoring position, all that other stuff. And we talked about it on the pregame show the other day. They wasted a phenomenal pitching month in the month of May. They wasted it. The pitching has been fantastic. And we always, it seems like all of us are looking, okay, well, if the bats turn around, then we'll be okay. What if the pitching takes a step back? Yeah. That's entirely possible.
You've had, listen, March doesn't really count, but they play games in March. You've had 2 losing months in a row. And you did it with top 4.
With good pitching. With good pitching.
Top 4 starters ERA. Again, when you play 1 and 2 run games, though, there's your razor's edge. All right, listen. At the end of the day, here comes Arizona. They're 8 games back. They're a few games under 500. You get a day off, and everybody always says, oh, maybe we need a day off. Okay, you've had a couple of those, and it hasn't really led to anything positive. Get another day off, and then we'll see Torey Lovello and his team come in, and I'll ask him why they're struggling or really, part of it is they play in a division with 3 teams that are legitimately better than them. But again, nobody cares. Nobody cares about your location. That's a real estate thing. Some years your division's going to be easier in all sports. Your league is going to be easier than the other guys. And when it's not, put your big boy pants on. Figure out a way. And right now, this team isn't figuring out a way offensively, that's for sure.
I don't know if they don't have any big boy pants at this point. Hopefully that changes in the month of June. So, D-backs coming in town. Just we're not going to go deep into them, but like you said, they're basically the same team as the Braves, just out west. Look, we could do a scouting report on the D-backs, but I don't think it matters at this point because everyone's just upset about the Braves. Hopefully they get this thing turned around. We'll see if that can start on Tuesday when we have a good pitching matchup. Zach Gallen against Spencer Strider. So, Chris, it's been interesting. I wouldn't say fun, but it's been interesting over the last few weekends. So I don't know. Maybe we come back on Thursday and we have a series one. What do you say?
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, it could happen. You're certainly capable. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm not. Listen, again, don't ask me. I can't predict what's going to happen in the game tomorrow night. I'm certainly not going to try to predict what's going to happen in the month of June. I just know that if you have another month the way that you had April and May, that idea of you finding and catching people, it's like a race.
Not happening.
Who am I passing? Horse race. Running race.
Braves fans know beat the freeze, right? If the freeze is already unleashed at when the guy's in left field still, then you're going to lose. I mean, you got to be way out there to win that race. And right now, I don't even know. I don't even know if the Braves can come back, but we'll see. This has been Brave Central.